Good morning, this is Hallicrafters Rehabs. I hope I'll have a sharper picture with this macro lens on and this little platform to get it closer up the tripod here. It's a Friday morning. My time with my dad was very blessed. He's only about 50% now on his walker and 50% on the wheelchair, but all is well here in this household. So this video may be all just the selectivity switch. What I've done is I've blown up the schematic and then labeled by color and where they go each one of these connections, which will make it a lot easier to connect this thing up when I put it back together. A pretty complicated switch, but it's a simple concept. Basically, it's the selectivity is simply a resistor in parallel with a capacitor at the bottom of T4, and a similar configuration for, I'm sorry, that's T6. A similar, put it in the screen. Here's T4, still can't get it in the screen. T4 is the last of the 50 kilohertz coils, IF coils. They're essentially a transformer is made up of two coils at T5 and T6 here on the second stage, the second amplification, and T3 and T4 here. So you have, through the switching arrangement, simply a selection of a capacitor and a resistor. Looks like after all this, I did have it wired up correctly. Didn't work all that well, I'm thinking, because some of these resistors are out of tolerance. We'll find that out. And the capacitors should be foil side to ground. Right here, foil side to ground. So we'll have that to do. So, on the switch, this is front, that's wafer A, wafer B, and wafer C. And we'll just start with each wafer. We'll be cleaning off, I'm not going to do this on camera, but we'll clean off, this is the back side of wafer A. And where is that in here? That's 2A. Yes, this is the back side of wafer A, and that's the front side. And we'll be starting with this one. There's only one resistor there, and we'll check that, and then we'll probably just dress these connections to the appropriate color. Okay, so wafer A is complete right here. And you just basically cleaned off the terminals and resoldered where necessary, put some additional, redress these connections according to the color code. And let's see if you can see the inside here. Let me try this. We'll do this, yeah. So I cleaned off the contacts first with this super contact cleaner, and then removed the excess with compressed air, and then I'm using this at WD-40 gel lubricant and spray and stay, and that gives lubrication, and it also puts a a very slight coating of oil-based coating that will keep it from oxidizing. Also, before I did that, I'm using these artist erasers to carefully clean off these contacts. Let's see if we got it in there. Hard to make it see in the camera. Okay, just doesn't show well. But anyway, so that's what you do. And so that's this wafer. Oh, and the resistor was a little bit out of tolerance, but I'm going to take a since I'm here point of view. You can see that one's discolored. So we'll probably, I haven't even tested it yet, but we'll proceed on to wafer 2 here, which has capacitors, and we'll put the foil in on the correct area because they all come together at kind of like a ground. And we'll work on that next. Okay, 2 wafers down and 1 to go. The resistors were all out, but I was going to replace them anyway. And the capacitors, 1 or 2, had to be reoriented properly. So now we're down, same procedure for everything else, and now we're down to the last wafer. Look how corroded that is. Let's see if we can get a good view of it. Yeah, it's a black area. And on this side too, must be a lot of oxidation from voltage. Okay, yesterday I finished this up, and it represents about 5 to 6 hours work. There was a lot of carbon deposit on the tracks, and that had to be removed. And then I observed the color coding just to make it a little bit easier for me to attach the switch, the selectivity switch, back in the radio. This is actually not a knob from the radio, it's just there for convenience. But it's ready to go. And the tube socket has finally come. That's the replacement there, and it will be replacing this one. And so we'll be using, I'll actually be using this as a guide as well as a schematic to make sure I get the connections pre-wired up before I put it in. So we'll continue on, come back. Alright, so I pre-wire 3 of the leads, 2 leads and 1 component in the socket before inserting it in there. Hard to find these small screws. Those are a little bit oversized, but they'll be okay. One thing I do is I put in a little bit of soldered wick here, and I can fill that with rosin and then solder a good connection ground between the socket and the chassis. So now what remains to be done is to actually wire the components and so forth into this socket. Okay, so the inside of the notch filter box has been finished wiring up, and I did get that soldered with Big Bertha, not with a little delicate soldering iron. And the grounds are in place. The 1000 ohms to the cathode is in place, and I found a improper substitution. The schematic shows 12,000 from this point to here, and then 33,000 to this point. There's a 22K right here. That looks awful, but it's actually a good resistor. Maybe I ought to put a better quality in there. But anyway, so I had a 12,000 in there instead of 33,000. That's another one of those Vichy 2-watt, but it's 3 zeros, not 2, well, you can't see it, but 3K, which is what it's supposed to be. Which goes to show I can be just as confused sometimes when I'm putting things together 3 years ago as I can be today. So I'm going to take another look at that resistor. Just don't like the color of it. That's all. .35. Maybe we'll put it to 2.2 in there. Come back. There really isn't an excuse for not putting in a new resistor there, especially since these are 2-watt resistors inside the all the way through to the plate, so they'll never be stressed at all. And I happen to have a spare. This was 2.32 or something like that. So now we have to put the plate cover on. And I'll go get that. Okay, so last view, give it a good shake. I didn't do this. And while we're at it, we're going to do a little bit of a check here to make sure there's no cross shorts or anything. Move things out. Alright. That looks good. Yes, I resoldered. Okay, let's do one more thing. Got some heat shrink in there. Alrighty. These markings are put on with decals. I'm not all that happy with the decal system. I may have to think of something else. I'll leave those decals in place, but I had put some on the back of the receiver, and they just fade away. I think I may have to use actual paper coated with some sort of clear coat and super glued or something like that. These screws keep the box square as well. When they go in. Alrighty, now we're going to put this box back into the chassis, and then we'll be able to turn it upside down conveniently and continue with the work. So let me get that set up. Okay, I lost a screw and had to hunt all over the place to find it, but it's found. So here are the 4 screw points right in here. One here, one here, one here, and one there. And we'll finish these out. Now, can't talk and think and do at the same time. Well, it doesn't want to. Here we go. Just got to go in straight. This one is hard to maneuver, so I need my trusty see if that's right. Maybe. I don't know. I may have to fumble with this off camera. This one's going to take some time. I'll be right back. Maybe. Okay, so it's just a matter of getting the right socket screw, and I used a screwdriver. Yeah, pretty soon. She's asking me about break time. I will be shortly. So, anyway, these are the wires which come out of the notch filter box right here. This is the input to the notch filter box that goes through this mica capacitor, and then this connection goes to the mixer box. Then this is the output from the notch filter box, and the output comes off here. We'll have to look at the schematics, but anyway, you can get these mixed up, but I promise I won't get them mixed up. Yeah, better last time. Best laid plans, I think is the word. So, we really are at a breaking point. Actually, I'll use DC resistance to find the right one. So, it's mounted in here. It provides support, and it keeps the weight of the chassis off of the IF transformer slugs, which is the main purpose of getting this box back in here. And next thing we'll do, not on this video, is we'll do this BFO. There's just one capacitor that needs to be checked to be in the right orientation, but I've not really reconditioned this. I haven't taken any readings off this. You know, if you've got it open, get everything done while you can. And then there'll be this switch, standby receive, and phone assembly, which is way over in this corner outside the camera range, right up there. You can't see it, it's over here. Okay, so there's where the, let me get this down a little bit. That's where the BFO is, and that's where the on-off switch, the function switch, all of this will be looked at and checked and cleaned, because it looks like we do have a cleaning job to do on these wafer switches on every switch. So I think I'm going to just call it quits for this weekend. You know, 6 hours on that selectivity switch was enough time anyway. This is Hallicrafters Rehabs. Thanks for watching.